I know we're coming from all different parts of the country, so different time zones. I recognize some of you. I know you're on Eastern time, and we have some people in Pacific. Like Debbie was saying, this is part of the Burton Morgan Foundation's Free Enterprise and Entrepreneurship Speaker Series. And so what we're going to do a lesson that has to do with entrepreneurship and free enterprise, do an activity. And for those of you that are teachers, this is an activity that you could take and use in your own classroom. And if you're not a teacher, this is, as you know, for all of us as participants, this is just a fun activity for us to engage in, to ponder those things that would be important to entrepreneurs and starting a business. So let me go ahead and share my screen. This one. Go. Let me make your faces big so I could see everybody here. Almost. There we go. Okay. Let's see lots of faces. All right. So we're going to start out by putting you into breakout rooms. And somebody said my screen is, can you see my slides, Debbie Davis?
Yes, I can see them.
Okay. If your screen is showing the speaker only, you can change the view so that you can see like the slides and the speaker or participants. So you do have the ability to change your speaker view. So I want you to imagine that you're starting a new business and you're trying to decide which of 4 countries would be the best location for your startup. Now the new, excuse me, you gotta take a water. The new business that you're starting is like a mobile assistant app. So it's an app for busy people. It allows users to enter a task that they need done and someone to pick up that job. So, and complete it for them. Like maybe you want somebody to pick up a greeting card for you and grab a gift or pick up some milk from the grocery store. And I know we have apps like this today, but this is one you're trying to take to a new market, okay? So there's going to be users who are going to use this app to get tasks done. And then we also need people who would be willing to do these tasks, who would provide their services on the app. So when you're in your teams, in your breakout rooms, you'll meet, introduce yourself to each other. And then you're going to use a resource called the CIA World Fact Book. I'm going to go ahead and open that right now so you get a preview of what it looks like. This is the CIA World Fact Book. You can just Google it. It'll come right up. And if you click on countries up at the top, a list of countries come up in alphabetical order. So I'm going to go to, let's go to Malawi. And you'll see, as you scroll down, they provide an introduction, like kind of an overview of the country. And then there's all these different sections that you can jump to. Like maybe you want to know about the people in the society. How old are, how is it? So let me see if I can just pull some things out here. Usually they'll talk about the median age of people. There's more females than males. We can see what religions the country would be. Oh, here's the age structure. So 37% of the population is 14 or under. 15 to 64 years would be 58% of the population. So that might be helpful when you're thinking about who would use the app and who would be the provider of services on the app. Dependency ratios, median age, population growth rate seems to be growing at 2.2%. You can also find the birth rate here. So there's some stuff about people in society that might be helpful. We could scroll down. There's a section on the environment and the government. Maybe we want to know what type of government system they have. We could go to the Republic of Malawi and read about, they have a presidential republic. I'm going to skip to the economy. And it says it's a low-income East African economy, primarily agrarian, investing in human capital. Urban poverty is increasing due to COVID-19, high public debt, endemic corruption and poor property rights, poor hydroelectric grid, and localized pharmaceutical industry. So that's some of that's very helpful information when we're going to be comparing this with other countries. You'll probably want to read about energy, like do they have a stable energy supply or is it intermittent? Maybe communications, how many cell phone users do they have? That might be important to know since you're thinking about it's a cell phone app. And then there might be some transnational issues, like do they engage in international trade and how much? So you don't have to read everything here in the fact book, but jump around to sections that you think might be helpful to find information about your country. And I would recommend you're going to be given 4 countries and you're going to be on a team of 4. So I would divide up the 4 countries among you. So each of you take one and go to the CIA World Factbook on another device, maybe your phone or another window, and do a little research. And then you're going to have a conversation together and share what you found. And you're going to, let me go back to our slide. You're going to, after you look for specific information that will help you decide whether the country is a good place to start a business, as a team, you'll discuss that and you're going to rank the 4 countries from most favorable to least favorable, which would be the best place out of those 4 countries to start a business, and which would be your last pick. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so Debbie Davis is going to put a link in the chat and it's going to look like this. Go ahead and drop that shared slides in there. And Samantha said she's used the CIA World Factbook before. It's been around a long time. Hopefully it will continue to stay around. It's a wealth of resources. Okay, when you get to this slide, it drops everybody on team 1. But once you go to your breakout room, pay attention to the breakout room number that you're in, because that's the slide you'll go to. You'll see team 1 here has Belarus, Brazil, New Zealand, and Niger. But when we get to team 2, they have Colombia, Iraq, Ireland, and Thailand. Team 3 has Denmark, Hungary, India, and Venezuela. Every slide is a different team and they have different countries. Okay? Any questions? Okay, if you need help, there's the little ask for help feature that you can raise your hand and I'll come pop into your room and help you with anything you need. So let's go ahead and send them away to their breakout rooms, Debbie. Okay, welcome back. You guys were making good time on discussing your countries. And so we're going to go through each group and I'm going to ask you to tell us kind of the rank that you came up with. If it's incomplete, at least tell us, like what was your top and your bottom. And then this is a list of all the countries that everybody viewed or that different teams had. So why don't we start with team 1 and tell us your rank of your countries: Belarus, Brazil, New Zealand, and Niger. Team 1 is Gina, Marcia, Matt, and Tim.
We had New Zealand ranked number 1. That was a country that I researched. And then I think we said Belarus 2 and Brazil 3 and Niger 4. We selected New Zealand as a top country based off of some of their figures that I saw for the economy. They have a $50,000 real GDP per capita. Their inflation has decreased over the past several years. 70% of their industry is services. So if we're looking to start, with that app, that obviously is a good market to get into. They've got a population of about 5 million people. 3 million are in the labor force, and unemployment is just under 5%. And it seems to be pretty stable, government-wise and economically speaking, compared to the other countries that we researched in our group.
Okay, it sounds like a healthy economy. And you gave us several reasons or characteristics that would be desirable for starting a business. All right, let's go to team 2. Tell us about your countries. How did you rank Colombia, Iraq, Ireland, and Thailand? This would be Holly, Jeff, Jennifer, and Paul. Anybody can volunteer to speak up.
Okay,
Go
good,
ahead.
good.
You go.
No,
You
you
go.
go. You got it. You got it.
Ha! You're probably gonna do way better than me. I'm not sure exactly what we decided. I think we decided on Thailand as being the number one. Based on it, their economy's all right, but they have a lot of people living in an urban area that probably need a lot of assistance with various things. Although at the end, though, we found out that Thailand only had a 0.7 unemployment rate, so not sure they're going to find people to help other people out unless they want second and third and fourth jobs. So that might be the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
But having a lot of people in an urban center was something that was important.
Right, and then Ireland was close, but because they were in a rural area, even though they had a lot of good income to spend money on, we thought they might not be, and a lower population, that they might not be so good for such an app.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Team 3 had Denmark, Hungary, India, and Venezuela. This is Chris, Prisha, Samantha, and Valerie. Who wants to share for your group?
I can share. We kind of changed ours a bunch because since we don't know exactly what type of business it was hard to decide, and we could see a lot of pros and cons. But we ended up going with Denmark as our top choice. My toddler's making this hard. Sorry.
Fine.
So we went with He's sabotaging me with the fan. Sorry.
Well, we can hear you just fine.
I might need someone to tag in.
Okay. Who wants to help? Who wants to help Samantha out from your team? Valerie, could you do that? Could you jump in? Oh, you're on mute, Valerie.
So what we did was we had Denmark, India, we had Venezuela, and we also had did I say India? Hungary. So I'm the one who researched that one. So we ended up saying we were going back and forth. We were looking at different indicators to make to kind of think about it. We ended up saying that Denmark was the first one because obviously, you know, after United States and Singapore, like Denmark is like big economy, business friendly, has a lot of infrastructures. Then after we were hesitating, but we decided on India. Because of, again, business friendly, a lot of people are more and more tech involve cell phones, like are part of they're part of the whole entire system. So and cheap labor is a little bit cheaper than somewhere else. So if you're wanting to do app, then after we said it was between Hungary and Venezuela. Venezuela was last and Hungary was the third one. Smaller country, landlocked. You know, in Europe, potential there, but just smaller country.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. And for groups 4, 5, and 6, if you would share your ranking, but tell us about the country at the bottom and what reservations did you have about that country at the bottom? What made you think that that wouldn't be the best choice for your country? So let's jump to team 4 that had Georgia, Haiti, Mexico, and Morocco. And this is Candace, Greg, Keel, and Theodore. Ted.
Well, as much as anything, for the bottom country, since we had Haiti and they're actively killing each other compared to the rest of the countries, we figured that, yeah, personal assistants aren't bulletproof.
Okay. And when you're starting a business, one thing you want is predictability. And when things are unpredictable, like they would be in Haiti, that doesn't make for a very good climate for starting a business, does it?
Not being unalived is kind of key.
Yeah.
Percent of people do not have access to electricity, so I wouldn't want to start it.
What percent was that, Candace?
49 point something %.
Half of the population doesn't have access to stable electricity. That's huge. Okay. All right, let's go to group 5. Group 5 had Cambodia, Chile, Egypt, and Ghana. And this is Dan, Melissa, and Pat.
I can go. So we
Yeah.
didn't research Ghana because we only had 3 people. But we did
Okay.
Chile, Egypt, and Cambodia, and it goes in that way. Cambodia was the last one, mainly because, I mean, it had a young population, but it was only 25% of urban population, and we thought that was
Ah.
something that would be beneficial in an urban situation. And then 61% only had access to was using the internet. So we
Okay.
thought maybe that would be the best place.
All right. And lastly, group 6, you had Greece, Guatemala, Ukraine, and Vietnam. I might have had Vietnam on here in 2 places. Did I? Oh, it was Venezuela, I think. No, I'm pretty sure somebody already talked about Vietnam. If we did, it's my fault. Okay, so team 6, that's Diane, Hunter, Shabnan, and Sona. Who wants to speak for your group?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Hunter.
So we ended up ranking it. I got to go back and find it. I know that Vietnam ended up being the first country just because of some of the market reforms, and you've got kind of a burgeoning middle class there, similar to what you've seen in China over the last 45 years. And so we figured there might be busy professionals, whatever, and that the growth opportunity would be big for an app like that. And then Ukraine, unfortunately, I think we all know why that would be not a great place to set up a business like that right now. Hopefully, maybe in the future, it would be a great place to expand that business, but right now it wouldn't be the place to do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me make sure I'm sharing my screen still. Sharing sound so we can watch a little video. Okay, so we'll come back to some of those questions, but I'm going to show you some videos that come from a series called the Essential Scholar Series. And these are available as PDFs online for free. They're put out by the Fraser Institute. It's a think tank in Canada. And this first one is they basically take the essential scholars kind of in the history of economics. So some of them are, before economics was a field itself, a lot of these were philosophers or political philosophers. And here's David Hume, and he's going to talk about free trade.
Welcome to the Essential Ideas of David Hume. Hume was an early advocate of free trade between people in their own country, as well as with people in other countries. Hume believed the same economic and moral benefits that accrue to people from trading with people in their own country also occur from trading with people in other countries. Let's use an example to explore Hume's ideas about the benefits of trade. Imagine 4 countries: Southland, Northland, Eastland, and Westland. For simplicity, there are 4 goods produced in each country: agriculture, raw materials like timber, technologies like telephones, and transportation like cars and trucks. Initially, each country produces all 4 goods, and trade is limited to people within each country. But as time passes, people in each country figure out what they're really good at producing and start producing more of that particular good. The people in Westland, Eastland, and Northland start to trade with each other in the goods they've discovered they're relatively good at producing. The people in Southland, however, fear the effects of trading with foreigners and decide to prohibit any trade outside of the country. Over time, the people in Westland, Eastland, and Northland specialize more and more in the areas they're good at, which leads to more entrepreneurship and innovation. Soon, people in all 3 countries are producing more of each good, and people are benefiting from higher quality and innovations. And all 3 countries benefit from each other's innovations because of trade. Southland, however, is limited in its ability to specialize because it has to produce everything. And so less innovation and progress is observed in Southland compared to its trading neighbors. Over time, people in Westland, Eastland, and Northland become wealthier with much higher living standards than people in Southland. Hume's insights into the benefits of free trade between nations would lead to increasing trade around the world for centuries. For more information on David Hume, visit essentialhume.org. And to learn about more.
Okay, so why would free trade be important to an entrepreneur? And did anybody come across, when they were researching their country, did you come across anything that implied that a country was open to free trade or didn't do a lot of free trade?
This is Paul. When I looked at Colombia, they actually had a negative trade deficit. So I'm not sure if that means that they export more than they import, or that they don't like importing stuff. It's hard to determine.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that they import more than they export. Like us, we have a trade deficit. I'm glad you brought this up because it's interesting, this idea of David Hume that free trade is beneficial. When you poll economists on what they think about different policy implications, this is the one thing that is closest to unanimity among economists, is that free trade is beneficial. And so you're going to be hard pressed to find an economist who will say that free trade isn't good for the economy. I mean, you can find them, they're out there, but this is one thing that economists, generally agree on. And Paul, I'm glad you brought up the issue of a trade deficit, because in order to trade goods with each other, like that map that they showed where the goods were moving across borders, in order to trade goods with other countries, we also have to trade currencies with other countries. And so because we have to trade currencies, then we can use those currencies to buy their goods. And so if we have a trade deficit, that's what we call a deficit in the current account, where we trade goods and services. But in the capital account, that's where we trade money, where we trade those financial assets, those currencies. We have a surplus. And so it would be the same for the country that you were looking at, Colombia, I think. Was it Colombia, Paul? Yeah. And so that means that they have a capital account surplus. And so other countries are holding Colombian currency, and they can invest that in the Colombian economy. And just like that for the United States, we have a capital account surplus, which means there's all these dollars out there in the rest of the world. And what can you do with dollars? You can invest them in the US economy. So it doesn't really, a trade deficit isn't really the end of the world. It just means that we have a surplus that balances out when we come to financial investments in the US. So, okay, so let's go. That's David Hume. And why would free trade be important to an entrepreneur? You can put your answers in the chat, or you can just unmute your microphone and speak up. What comes to mind? Why would free trade be important for an entrepreneur?
It expands the size of a market.
It does. You can trade with more people. So, I mean, you're in fact looking at starting this in a different country. You don't want additional barriers to starting your business. Good. New markets makes people better off. The more free trade there is with other countries, the more you can specialize. Tricia said money. All right, good job. Okay, this video is it features Hayek, Friedrich von Hayek, and we'll watch a little clip here.
Welcome to Essential Hayek. I'm Don Boudreau, professor of economics at George Mason University, senior fellow at the Fraser Institute, and blogger at Cafe Hayek. This video is part of the Fraser Institute's initiative to present the key ideas of F.A. Hayek in an easily accessible format. In this video, we explore one of Hayek's most profound pursuits, which is understanding the difference between legislation and law. Hayek differentiated between rules consciously designed and imposed on society by government officials and rules that emerge, undesigned, from social interactions among people over time. He called rules imposed on society by government officials legislation, and he contrasted legislation with those rules that emerge, which he called law. Hayek's concept of law is a lot.
I'm going to go ahead and pause it there because the rest of the video he's talking about what Hayek calls law. And basically what this is just saying is that in every economy, there's going to be formal rules that outline what behavior is acceptable and accepted. And there's also informal rules of the game, those customs and norms, what Hayek would call law. But we call this category in economics today, we call it rule of law. And so my question to you is, why would rule of law be important to an entrepreneur? And the best way to define rule of law is by defining what it's not. So there's rule by force or rule of force. That's just whoever has the biggest guns, is in charge. That's like, what's happening in countries that are just torn by civil war year after year. It's whoever can be in charge, and it might change a year from now. Versus rule of man means that men make the rules, or I suppose women, and that people make the rules, and those rules apply to those that we're governing, but not necessarily the people that make the rules. So they don't have to follow those same rules. And rule of law means that everybody is subject to those rules, even the people who make the rules. And so why would rule of law be important to an entrepreneur?
It creates a level playing field. Everyone has to play by the same rules.
Everybody has to play by the same rules. Now, it might not be perfect. I mean, you could probably think of examples in the United States where some people seem to not have to play by the same rules as other people, but it's something we strive for, right? Entrepreneurs, the more presence there is of the rule of law, the more predictable the outcomes are going to be. You know that your private property is going to be protected, that your innovation, your business is going to be protected. I had a taxi driver one time who was from Sudan, and he was a political refugee. And he talked about how, he started a business, a sign making business. He bought this piece of equipment and would print signs for people. And the government came in and tried to buy the business from him. And when he wouldn't sell, they basically sent people in to copy everything that he had done to they didn't say we're from the government, but they were. And then they started right next door to him or right across the street, the same exact business, but it was being run by the government, and they offered lower prices and were able to drive him out. And then he started facing personal attacks from people in charge and literally had to flee the country. Not a good place for an entrepreneur, but he came here, put his entrepreneurial skills to work, and was, he knew the language very well and was driving his own cab. So what else? Why else would rule of law be important to an entrepreneur? Samantha said it increases trust in government and business, reduces corruption. Absolutely great points. Anything else?
Predictability.
Predictability. We like predictability. Entrepreneurs like predictability. Okay, this video features John Locke.
Welcome to the Essential Ideas of John Locke. One of Locke's most important and enduring insights related to property. Locke argued that every person was born with certain basic natural rights, and that these natural rights enabled individuals to acquire further rights, including property rights. Locke argued that, first and foremost, every person has a property right over themselves. In other words, each person has a right of self-ownership, meaning others, such as a king, do not have control over the individual person. This view stood in stark contrast to the view that the king or queen owned everything, including the people, or that the rights of individuals were determined by the will of the sovereign. Locke argued that such sovereign authority over the individual was contrary to the law of nature. The bundle of rights that Locke envisioned every person possessing also included the right to one's labor. This means that individuals have a right to the fruits of their physical labor, as well as their ingenuity, creativity, and innovation. Locke also explained how we can come to have property rights in land or other natural resources, rights not based in political decree or favoritism. The key for Locke was what he called labor mixing, which occurs when a person uses their physical labor, ideas, imagination, and creativity to transform previously unused physical material. For example, Joe and Sarah arrive in the New World and find an unclaimed area of land. They begin a process of transforming the land to build a farm. According to Locke, this labor is how Joe and Sarah acquire rights over the land. Property rights over the products produced on the farm is an important addition because it means that Joe and Sarah have the right to decide how best to use their crop. They can consume it or trade it with people for other goods and services they might need. These insights about the importance of property rights in ensuring a free and prosperous society are as applicable now as they were when John Locke was writing them originally. For more information on John Locke,
Okay, so why would property rights be important to an entrepreneur?
Protection against theft or copying?
Yeah, I have some recourse. If somebody steals from me or copies what I've done, I can go to the government. I can go to an independent court system that would be part of that rule of law, right? And have my rights protected. Reassurance that what ours is ours. Diane said. Melissa said to provide some guarantee that your work benefits you. Matt said you can own your own resource, product, good, and other people can't steal them. Innovation can be secured. I think when they described how your creativity, your ingenuity, I forget what the other one was they put up there. I thought that is what an entrepreneur is, right? They're creative, they're coming up with new ideas, they're starting some new business or opening it to a new market. Okay, so for this next part of the activity, I'm going to send you back into your groups and you're going to take those 4 countries and you're going to look them up on the Economic Freedom of the World Index. So if you just search free the world, well, that's not exactly what I thought would come up. Free the world map. Let me see if that comes up. Oh, that's not exactly what I wanted. Let me go back and see what link I actually put in here. freetheworld.com. Let's try that. Okay, so you can pull this up on your phone. This one's a little easier to pull up on another computer, another tab on your computer screen after I send you into your breakout rooms. But you'll notice it shows a map of all the countries and they're ranked, they're color coded in 4 different colors. We've got this blue teal color, which is the most free, meaning they have the most economic freedom. We have the green color, which is the second quartile of most free. And then we have this orange color, which is the 3rd quartile. And then we have red, which is the least free when it comes to economic freedom. And so you're going to find your countries on the map. Like here's Belarus, here's Ukraine, and you're going to find their score. They're like right now, I'll show you the United States since that's not, or we'll look at Canada. So if I click on Canada, I can see that they're ranked number 11, but I want to know their score. Their score is 7.92 out of 10. And that puts them in the top 11 countries in the world. Now, there is a 2-year lag in this data because that's about how long it takes to compile the data and then put together this report every year. So when we see the 2025 report, it's using 2023 numbers. And so keep that in mind in what we see in the US right now. If I click on the United States, where our score is 8.1 using numbers from 2023. So you're going to find the score for your country on a scale of 1 to 10. Where does your country score? And let me go back to Canada. And in this, I know it's kind of hard to see. I'm sharing my screen, but in this on the left over here, I can see where Canada scores high and where they score low. For example, they only have a 6.39 when it comes to size of government. So if the government is too large, it impedes on the private sector of the economy. Another section that they measure in this economic freedom is the legal system and property rights. So you can see a score for that. Sound money, do they have sound money or is it prone to inflation? Do they have freedom to trade internationally? That's a score. And then how much regulation is there? A certain amount of regulation is necessary, but too much regulation can actually impede entrepreneurs and business growth. So you're gonna go find your country's score at economicfreetheworld.com, which is the Economic Freedom of the World Index. Excuse me. And the Economic Freedom of the World Index measures the degree to which the policies and institutions of a country are supportive of economic freedom. And the cornerstones of that economic freedom are personal choice. Do people have the freedom to make their own choices? Voluntary exchange. Are voluntary exchanges, do they happen and are they allowed? Are there open and competitive markets? Freedom to enter markets and compete. Security of the person, you own yourself and your body and your labor, you can make choices. And privately owned property. Those would be the cornerstones of the Freedom Index. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for now. Then I'll call you back and give you your last task. Let's go ahead and look at your placements here. Some of you are just finishing up, it looks like we're getting Colombia up there. I see Iraq was way down here. What was Iraq's score? Who looked up Iraq's score? What was their score?
Jeff had that, I think.
Yeah, I had it. It was 141 on the economic freedom chart.
Oh, that was their rank, 141?
141, and there was only like, I don't know, there was about 20 other countries that was worse than them, but not many.
Do you remember what their score was? Like
Oh, sorry, yeah, 5.37.
5.37, there we go. Okay, so that means we would put Iraq. I knew it was low.
Oh, it has to be, okay, I didn't understand.
We'll put them closer there.
I get it.
How about Ukraine?
I asked him about it, so I was really confused when you put it down at 2.
How about Ukraine? What was their score?
It was 5.24.
All right, we'll drag them a little bit over here too. Maybe
yeah, I misunderstood the mission on that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what Columbia's was.
Coming from the deliverer. There we go. Okay, so these are all kind of splashed on here. And are there any observations that you have? Like when you see all these countries up here and the colors, are there any observations you can make with the colors and the placement of the countries?
I don't see, I see less green. I guess green is the, in terms of rankings. Oh, top rank is blue, is that right? That's
Top
what you're
is
saying?
blue, top is blue.
Okay. So there's very few, there's more of the orange than anything else, is what I'm observing.
Okay. I also noticed that the blues tend to be more to the right and the reds tend to be more to the left, the reds and oranges, which it seems to make sense now when we think about what was included. Let me come back over here to these slides. When we think about that, when we recognize that this Freedom Index is measuring personal choice, voluntary exchange, freedom to enter markets and compete, security of the person, and privately owned property, these are going to be things that are important to an entrepreneur as well. So it makes sense when you're placing your countries that your first picks are going to have those higher economic freedom scores generally. Green was your second picks, orange were the third picks, and then red were the last picks. And those colors also coordinate with the colors on the map, most free to least economically free. So let me jump back over to here. Empirical studies and historical comparisons strongly suggest that more entrepreneurial societies have higher standards of living and stronger economic growth. Entrepreneurship thrives in societies where individuals have economic freedom, where their property rights are protected, where the rule of law prevails, and where they're free to trade with people, even people in other countries. Entrepreneurs drive the innovation and progress that results in economic growth and improve standards of living in countries. Entrepreneurs are like the engine that drives that economic growth and that thriving and prosperity that we like to see for human beings, right? So an extension activity that you could do with your students, or just something I want you to think about after we leave, is then students could take their country that they research and suggest a policy change that would make their country, that would improve the climate for entrepreneurship. So of all the things they read about that country, what's something that they could recommend changing that would make it better for entrepreneurs in that country? Right, just off the top of your head, some of your countries, are there things that you could think about that would make the changes that you can think about? Somebody give me a couple examples. Or you could put them in the chat as well. I'll watch the chat.
I think the first one is strengthening property rights. I mean, Hernando de Soto does great stuff on this, and that's one of the biggest things because it ensures that people have some sort of predictability and ownership of the things they create.
Yeah, so if your country didn't have the best protection of private property rights, that would be something that could be done.
Okay. Copyright laws.
Stronger copyright laws, patents. Okay, what else? I noticed in the chat, Pat said our first pick wasn't maybe the best choice. You only have the information you have to work with. And just because your first pick wasn't the one that was the most economically free, or if it wasn't, doesn't mean it wasn't the best pick for your group. Somebody else had an example. Nobody else? Go ahead, Paul.
Does it matter how the political structure is set up? Does that play any role into in terms of policy change? You're talking to people that may be entrenched and they don't want things to change.
Yeah, I think if the politics are affecting things like the rule of law, absolutely. But one thing we've noticed is that you can have very different political regimes around the world and different economic freedom scores. Like, I don't know if you noticed when I was looking at the map, we'll just go over there real quick. Russia had a score, they were in the least free quartile, where China was in the third quartile. They were above them. Even though China, says they're a communist country, they actually have implemented a lot of market reforms and have a lot of more economic freedom than they've had in the past. So it depends, Paul. If those political institutions end up affecting, economic freedom, absolutely. Okay. I wanted to share with you, so this Essential Scholars, we watched some videos from it, but they have these cute little books. You can see I have a stack here. I have some more in my office, and they're all kinds. There's one on Milton Friedman here. Who's that one? It's come backwards to you guys. James Buchanan, Ronald Coase, lots of them. So these books are available. If you contact the Fraser Institute, they're happy to send you copies. Like if you wanted a class set of a certain, philosopher or somebody, or you can just assign them as readings or read them yourself. Like I like the one on Adam Smith because the complete works of Adam Smith I have in like 3 volumes, or I can just read this little primer, on Adam Smith. And so we'll jump to the books, and you can see all the books you can access right here as PDFs. And each one of these also has videos that go with them as well that might be useful in a class setting for those of you that are teachers. Okay, any questions about the resources? Debbie Davis is going to be sharing with you a folder that will have the lesson and the slides that we used today. And I've shown you the resource that now where you can access this Essential Scholar series and read more there. Any other questions about resources? Okay, well, thank you guys for participating in this activity and this discussion about entrepreneurship and economic freedom.